a Defender TDCi Puma, both 2.4 or a 2.2 radiator change. Okay, this is a new genuine radiator, and I'll go into why it was changed out. So typically they're very long lasting, but with age they can get blocked. The bottom part of the core can get blocked, especially if the cooling system hasn't been particularly that well looked after. So this one was a bit of a pain because it had a winch on it and a whole pile of other stuff that we've run the cables through the front grille. So often spotties will have a plug on them, which this one did, but it had winch cables that went through the plastic down at the bottom, the vent, the grille, instead of underneath. You know, that's just idiocy. Same with CB antennas. This one I have to get my auto sparkies to put a plug on it. Again, either put enough lead so you can run it underneath the grill, or put a plug on it. My auto sparkies always put a plug on it. So there's the radiator slam panel. Once this is off, the 4 screws and the 2 screws on the side, you can remove this apron, and you'll see 4 13mm bolts on each side. Okay, I'll get a torch, but there's also in between the slam panel where my finger is, there's generally 1 or 2 thick washers, depending on how they've aligned the panel. So the way these are built in the factory is the engine, radiator, and all that is put in first. These quarter panels are put on last. Well, when you're doing a radiator change, typically you're doing it the other way around. Okay, so all we want to do is once you've got the 4 bolts and there's a center bolt here, get your pry bar. This part here, I think it's actually steel, that panel. I realise that's aluminium, but I'm pretty sure that actually is steel. Get your pry bar in there, and you can very carefully, without damaging anything, just pry it apart and you'll pop the slam panel out, okay? Then the cables there, we'll just hang it over the front. Then you've got these 2 brackets on either side, these big black ones. That one and where the bonnets stay. You've got 2 bolts there, and you've already taken the 2 13mm bolts off the side. So carefully wiggle that out. You'll see a spigot. I should have got a torch, but yeah, you'll see it all. There's a spigot for the intercooler down there. So when you take this side piece out, that'll pop out. Don't lose the rubber or find the rubber. Then you've got your 2 bolts for the intercooler. This one's already got an aftermarket intercooler. So if you're just doing an intercooler swap, because the 2.2s are prone to splitting, you don't have to take the radiator out, okay? You take the top plastic cowling off, then disconnect your hoses and your intercooler hose off each side, and underneath this cowling, there's like a sort of half cup which holds the hose. You've just got to wangle the hose out from there, and you'll pop this cowling out. Obviously, you'll have to take your viscous fan off. Now, I'll show you a very simple trick that I got from another mechanic. Is it going to sit there? Is it going to... Let's put you there. Oops. This works every time. So if you don't have your two types of spanners, so one has got the pins for holding it, and the other one is your 36mm. Put that on there, and if you hit the top of that with a hammer, tap, 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 and as you turn, tap, 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 just tap, tap, tap. Sometimes you have to go a bit harder, but you're not going to damage anything. But obviously, you're not going to get in there with a 12-pound sledgehammer, all right? Tap, 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 just tap on the end, and it will release. Now, to know, I always forget and then go, oh yeah, then I remember. So if we go, what is it? I did write it down. Grooved undo clockwise. Okay, yeah. So if you look at the pulley that the fan is supported, connected to, if the pulley is smooth, it undoes clockwise. Is that right? Smooth pulley undoes clockwise. Oh, anti-clockwise, you idiot. Okay. Smooth pulley. If the pulley is smooth, you undo it anti-clockwise. Okay? So that's a smooth pulley, because you can see the ribs, the grooves are on the outside. So anti-clockwise. Tap, 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 and that will just undo anti-clockwise. Okay? And that's a surefire method. And when you put it back, put a bit of anti-seize on the thread and on the flat part, which will make it easier for the next guy, unless you don't care about him. Okay. So then you've got your main hose down there, and on a Defender, these TDCi's, same as a TD5, you've got a hose that connects to the front of the radiator right down the bottom. Okay. So once this cowling's out, you'll be able to get to it all. They're not really that hard, a little bit fiddly. Take that one off. Be careful of that spigot with the new radiator, because if you snap it off, then you've just lost a brand new radiator. There's no legitimate fix for that. All right. And this pipe, they're generally not bad, but treat it as it's going to be very brittle. So you unlatch it from there and along, and you can just put it towards the back of the engine there. Okay. I generally, if you're doing a radiator and you can't pull all this off, then take because your slam panel's not there, take the radiator and intercooler out as one, fit them up on the bench, and put it back. All right. This one I am going to put I just haven't got any left in stock, a new viscous fan, because they do wear out. And if you're at that 200,000 Ks, I would say just suck it up and put a new viscous fan on. So it feels a little bit, yeah, because they do degrade with age, and you don't need when I say genuine, you can go for an OEM one, which I think off the top of my head is Beck. Okay. Now, the part of my video. So why was this changed out? Age? No. This one had a U-Butte fantastic all aluminium radiator. Okay. Aluminium, when I say all aluminium, so the genuine ones, the original ones, aluminium core, plastic end caps, like most modern cars. Not that a Defender's particularly modern. It was replaced, I don't know, not by me, with a full aluminium core, aluminium end tanks. It's meant to be 30% or 20% or whatever it is increase, but after a couple of years, look, leaking. You flip it over, it's exactly the same. Now, I think they're garbage. So, now I'm being very specific here. I don't mean, how they perform in anything else like Doof Doof Subaru or some whatever U-Butte car, because there'll definitely be comments where people say, oh, I've had one in my blah blah car and it's been awesome. This is specific to Defender 07 to 16, even the previous model, the TD5, because this is the same part number. This radiator will fit TD5 Defenders onwards. These always seem to end up leaking. Now, I'd like to know, and it doesn't matter what brand it is. I've seen all these U-Butte brands, and some have said, oh, we've never had that problem. Yeah, just Google it. All aluminium radiators leaking in my Defender TDCi or TD5. I'd like a manufacturer or someone to go, oh, well, this is why. Or, there's some say, oh, you've got to earth them. Some say you've got to insulate. Oh, that's all bullshit. Absolutely bullshit. It's all there in theory, but in practice, you're not going to tell me whether I insulate electrically or earth an all-alloy radiator. It's going to leak where the cores join the tanks. Okay? But it seems to be good. Even when guys put, they'll put some Chev V8 in it and they'll put a custom-made alloy radiator, so many years down the track, it starts leaking. So to me, these are not a solution. I looked at doing this to customers' Defenders, upgrading them to a better all-alloy radiator, but I don't think these are. With intercoolers, awesome. All-alloy intercoolers, especially the 2.2s, are great. I've never had any problem. And I've probably fitted, 40, 50 of them. And I've never had any split. I've heard some of the other brands have split on the world. And they were tigged up again and ready to go. But you ain't repairing this in a hurry. So I had my brother-in-law look at it. And he said, well, unfortunately, to repair this, you're going to need to take this tank off, then re-weld up where the core goes into the end part there. And then put it all back, then pressure test it, and then find, oh, well, that was successful. And then when does it leak again? So these, to me, are not a solution. 2 of these at the moment that this customer has given up. And I said, well, big dollars. So we've gone to a genuine one. I'd really like somebody to give me an answer. And like I said, this is very specific to Defenders. I did have a bit of a theory that perhaps that mounting it just on, so this mounts in the genuine spot. You've got a rubber bush there, and there's a pin. maybe that's not enough. Maybe the core itself has to be supported. Yeah? The core supporting more than the end cap. Maybe a thick rubber piece between the chassis and here, so it sits slightly off the rubber support on the end. I don't know. Something is not right, because I'm seeing this more and more. These U-Bu all aluminium radiators end up leaking. And what does the customer do? After, what, a year or 2 years? It's not like the 10-year warranties and they're going to race out and send you another one. Then you've got to pay your mechanic to swap it out again. Another thing I don't like, so this pipe on a TDCi, this outlet is actually redundant. It's redundant on TD5s as well, except for the very early ones, where there was a Euro 2 directive, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it was a bit of a stuff up. So you buy a genuine Land Rover radiator, it's got that spigot, but it's blanked. Putting this rubber end cap on, these rubber ends like this are prone to, they'll get a star, pressure will build up, they'll get a star crack, and then they'll burst. A better idea, if you do have a radiator that does have that hole connected, is you put what I used to put on the TD5s, on actually the engine oil coolers. That goes on like that, and an aluminium, not this one, this is just a test sample machining thing, end cap on the end, so you've got two clamps. It's not going to ever blow out the end of the aluminium, and the side walls on hoses are nice and strong, okay? So if you do put a genuine radiator in your pretty well all TD5s and TDCis, Defenders, don't drill that. If the radiator, if it's a genuine one, that will be blanked inside, and you can put a piece of wire and go, oh yeah, it's blanked. Don't drill it out. Yeah, because then you have to put a cap on it. So why aftermarket radiators have that spigot on them and it's open, you're just adding another point of failure. So that's pretty well it. Once your radiator's back in, or your intercoolers, you put a new intercooler on it. Really important. Now this goes back to old TD5, Discovery 2 and Defender. The two screws here, they screw into the end cap. If you just put them in and screw them down, you'll punch a hole in the top of the tank. That's an old crap Land Rover thing. You know, I've always put a flat washer and a spring washer. The spring washer's because it's nice and thick. It's really hard to find a flat washer that has the thickness of a fairly solid spring washer. You're not really worried about the spring part of it. It's just thickness. So the thick spring washer, flat washer, and just gentle. Okay, so I've just got to put them in. New viscous fan. And you can upgrade. I've got to have a look to see whether this one's got no, I think it's a standard thermostat. I generally put, so I think the standard thermostat is an 86 degree opening one. I put a 82 in it. Also look at doing your water pump at the same time. You're trying to get the best out of your cooling system. Now, I'm just looking at that hose there. Oh. Okay, that's obviously, we'll rectify that while we're at it. Well, that doesn't look like it's tight, is all that is. So that's about it. So hopefully we won't have any more coolant leaks. Now, am I a great believer of silicone hoses on intercooler, turbo intercooler hoses? Absolutely. Cooling systems? No. I think, honestly, my honest opinion, and that's all it is my opinion, silicone hoses for cooling are bullshit. Coolant hoses are synthetic, and they have been, so they're not pure rubber. And they have been for many a lifetime. It's just an unnecessary upgrade. Unless you like the prettiness, I don't. And of course, you've got to use really good quality hose clamps because silicone hoses are that much more slippery. But to me, it's an unnecessary upgrade. Yeah. There'll be some vehicles that specific. Like I said, if you're doing it for the look, but does all that blue look pretty? I don't know. If you think so, great. I don't like the untidiness of all the hose clamps. Your expansion clamps are a better thing, and guys that don't like them are the ones that don't have the expansion clamps in stock. I keep all them different ones in stock, so if I get a worn old tired one, put a new one on. One thing I do like, and I am definitely a converter of it, is the expansion tank, the alloy one. I think Alley Sport are the only ones. I think some of the early ones I thought had a couple of issues. I don't know whether the sight glass was too thin. I've got one there that a customer gave me, and my dad fixed it. He put a thick piece of Perspex or something like that in it. May not be Perspex, it was something heat resistant. But he made a nice, but I think the newer ones are thicker. I do like the fact that at first I thought, this is just another gimmicky thing, but I do like the sight glass, and you can very easily look at the level. I've just put 2 paint marks because obviously I want to test drive this for a while and make sure that the coolant level is staying where it should be. So yes, I'm a fan of the Alley Sport expansion tanks. I'm not a fan of all the other stuff, no brand particular, but sometimes it's upgrades for the sake of upgrades. I don't get it. All right, well, that's all I've got for you. Comment below, and thanks for watching. See ya. Bye.